Okay, now let's go back to the player control. Make sure that you're in the control state machine. And we're going to add another event here that goes to a shoot state. Right, so we're going to have a shoot state where the player will shoot the enemy. Okay, and let's see. Okay, let's hook up the keys first. So we're going to get key down. Actually, let's do get button down. Fire1. Now Fire1, what is Fire1? If we go to Edit, Project Settings, Input, here, remember we talked about the axis here before. Now Fire1, the name Fire1 corresponds to the left control button, the left control key, or mouse 0, which is the left mouse button, and you can sort of change things here, but I'm going to use Fire1 in my state. Okay, let's go back to that state. Okay, so if the Fire1 button is pressed, then let's add an event shoot fireball. Shoot fireball. Go there. Right. So we're gonna just shoot fireball if we press on the Fire1 button, and in the shoot state, I'm gonna instantiate, or rather create object. So in Playmaker it's called create object. In code is instantiate, but it's essentially the same thing. So here, game object, we're going to drag our prefab in here. Okay. Now spawn point, you can leave that empty, and what that's going to do is it's going to instantiate the fireball from the player, and that might look a little bit odd. Let's just let's take a look at that. Let's first finish the state. When it's done, go back to move. Right. And I'm going to get rid of this one. So let me just show you where it's instantiated. So it's sort of instantiated from, right, so without a spawn point, it's just sort of instantiated from the 0, 0, 0 point, which is not where we want. We can drag player here, so it's going to use the player's position, but that might, let's see, I'm not sure if that's what we want either. See, it's sort of shooting from the bottom of the player because that's where the anchor point is. That kind of looks funny as well, so we don't want that. Now we can do something similar to what we did with the ground check, where we create an empty game object that just holds the transform positions, right? Transform vectors. So let's do that, and I can just go to game object, create empty, and I'm going to call this fireball spawn point, and move that into the player. So now it's a child object of the player, sort of moves around with it, with the player. I'm going to give it a red icon so we can see it in the scene, otherwise can't see it. Right. And then I'm going to reset the position, and then drag somewhere here. I think I want it to be sort of in front of the player. Another thing we have to think about is if you start from here, we might run into a problem where the fireball is colliding with the player right away, and that's not that's gonna cause some problems, right? Because that's gonna stop the fireball from moving. So we're gonna move this a little bit further to the front. If for some reason you really want this to spawn from this position, There is a way we can turn off collision between these two. I'll show you that in a bit, but let's just, for now, let's move this outside of the player. Okay. All right, let's try that. We are moving, jumping. All right, I forgot to change that position. Right, so it's still spawning from the player. Let's drag that in here. Okay, try that again. My apologies for that mistake. Okay, now it's going in the right place. Very good.